everybody, my name is Maddie and this is my Marvel comic breakdown. Okay, before I get started, today I had some blood taken, and so I'm like a little out of it, so if this video is a little weird, that's why. But anyway, if you're a diehard Marvel fanatic, or even just stepping into the thrilling universe of Marvel Comics for the first time, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving deep into the colorful and action-packed world of Marvel Comics, exploring the iconic stories and unforgettable characters that have captivated readers for decades. So let's just go ahead and get into it. The next 4 comics are in the Marvel Mystery Comics number 2. They were all released in October of 1939. This first comic is titled The Town of Wanted Men. The author is unknown, but the art was done by Al Anders. This is a thrilling tale from the Wild West, featuring the masked raider and a notorious outlaw named Hook Tebbs. The story begins in the Rawhide Range, where Hook Tebbs, a fearsome outlaw with a hook for a hand, plans to hold up a gold bullion train. Tebbs sent his trusted man, Tex, to Prairie City to recruit more gang members for the heist. Tex encounters the masked raider at a saloon, who cleverly gains Tex's trust by pretending to be a bank robber. Tex invites the raider, now going by the name Streak, to join the gang at their ranch. At the ranch, Tebbs initially tries to intimidate the masked raider, but when he stands his ground, Tebbs takes a liking to him and invites him to join the gang. Later, the masked raider sneaks off to warn the Prairie City sheriff about the gang's plans, and they agree to gather a posse to stop the heist. The next day, the masked raider gets into an argument with a gang member named Miguel, and Tebbs warns him about a storage well with a ladder inside. Furious, the raider investigates the well, only to be caught and tied up by Tebbs. However, our hero manages to escape and signals the sheriff's posse and dons his disguise just in time to capture Tebbs. The posse captures the rest of the gang, with Tex going down in a blaze of gunfire and Hook Tebbs meeting his end, mortally wounded in the gunfight. This action-packed story showcases the cunning and courage of the masked raider, a hero who uses his wits to infiltrate and dismantle a dangerous gang. The story also highlights the importance of teamwork between the hero and the sheriff, emphasizing that cooperation and trust can triumph over the forces of evil. The next comic is titled American Ace. It was written and illustrated by Paul Loretta. This is a thrilling story of intrigue and revenge featuring the cunning Queen Ursula, who seeks to avenge her exile from Castle Dor. The story begins with Queen Ursula exiled from her homeland of Castile Dor to a lonely Atlantic islet. Determined to regain her power, she's smuggled back into her country and conspires with Yosef, her loyal accomplice, to spark a war between Castile Dor and Atania. Obviously, I do not know how to pronounce the kingdom's name. Their plan involves hiring a professional killer, dressing him as an Atanian soldier, and assassinating the minister from Castile Dor. As the scheme unfolds, the assassin successfully takes out the minister and makes a daring escape. Queen Ursula seizes the moment, rallying a massive crowd and declaring war on Atania. Little do they know, Perry Wade, our intrepid protagonist, is flying over Atanian skies, about to be thrust into the center of this dangerous conflict. As Perry lands in the Atanian capital, air raid sirens blare, and bombs begin to fall on the city. The stage is now set for a dramatic showdown, with Perry caught in the middle of a sinister plot and an escalating war. In this gripping tale, we see how Queen Ursula's thirst for revenge and her cunning manipulations can plunge nations into chaos and conflict. It serves as a reminder of the far-reaching consequences of political scheming and the dangers that can arise when personal vendettas take precedence over peace. The next comic is titled Adventures of Ka-Zar the Great. It was written and illustrated by Ben Thompson. It's about the wild world of Ka-Zar, a young boy raised by lions after his father's death. This story begins with David Rand, who goes to live with the lion Zar after his father's death and takes on the name Ka-Zar. However, not everyone is thrilled with this arrangement, especially Shah, Zar's mate. Ka-Zar, remembering a glittering mirror from Paul de Craft's camp, sets out to retrieve it, only to find that it has been taken by Bardak, an ape from Shaka's tribe. A fierce battle ensues, with Ka-Zar emerging victorious and forcing Bardak to submit. Despite sparing Bardak's life, Ka-Zar earns himself a bitter enemy. As tensions rise with the lion pride, Ka-Zar and Zar set off to find Traja and his elephants. Along the way, they face a dangerous encounter with a maddening elephant named Tuput, but eventually befriend Traja. Upon returning to their pride, they discover that Zar has become the father of 2 cubs. Meanwhile, Bardak, humiliated by his defeat and taunted by Ganya, the most desirable female in his tribe, seeks to redeem himself by stealing the mirror back. Failing to find the mirror, he kidnaps one of Zar's cubs, Zorro, instead. Ka-Zar and Zar come to the rescue, and Ka-Zar challenges Bardak to a fight to the death. In a desperate move, Bardak throws the cub from a tree, but Ka-Zar saves it just in time. Climbing after Bardak, Ka-Zar slays him and warns Shaka of the consequences of harming his family. In doing so, Ka-Zar finally earns Shah's approval. In this thrilling adventure, we see Ka-Zar's fierce determination and strong sense of family and loyalty. His willingness to protect those he cares about, even at great personal risk, demonstrates the true qualities of a hero. The next 6 comics are in the Marvel Mystery Comic number 3. They were all released in November of 1939. The next comic is titled The Menace from Mars. It was written and illustrated by Carl Burgos. This is an action-packed story featuring the Human Torch, Martian invaders, and a dangerous new explosive formula. The story begins aboard the Comet train where Mr. Carson, owner of the Carson Explosive Company, is shocked by a news report of a Martian invasion on New York City. In a surprising twist, he discovers that the Human Torch is on the same train. They suspect the invasion might be a fictional adaptation of a radio show, but their suspicions are put to the test when a Martian ship appears and derails the train. 2 Martians board the train, demanding Mr. Carson's formula for a powerful new explosive. Carson bravely refuses, while the Human Torch struggles to free himself without alerting the invaders. Eventually, he confronts the Martians, and after some intense action, the Torch manages to save Carson and the other passengers. Sadly, Mr. Carson dies from his injuries, entrusting his formula to the Human Torch. The Torch rushes to Gelton, Texas, to deliver the formula to Mr. Carson's daughter, Diane. There, Diane and the Torch uncover a nefarious plot involving Martians and Mr. Ritten, who wants the explosive formula for his own purposes. As the story unfolds, the Torch and Diane team up to outsmart their adversaries and prevent the deadly formula from falling into the wrong hands. This thrilling adventure combines elements of sci-fi, action, and intrigue, showcasing the Human Torch's heroism and resourcefulness. The story serves as a reminder that cooperation, trust, and the determination to protect the greater good can triumph over even the most formidable threats. The next comic is titled The Voodoo Sacrifice. It was written by Ray Gill and illustrated by Paul Gustafson. This is a thrilling rescue mission featuring the ever-vigilant Angel. The story kicks off with a young girl kidnapped by a group of robed individuals. Her desperate cries for help catch the attention of our hero, the Angel, who valiantly attempts to intervene, only to be temporarily sidelined. Unfazed, the Angel follows the kidnappers to a foreboding castle in the northern countryside, but soon finds himself ensnared by a trapdoor in the castle's defenses. Inside the castle, the cult's leader, ominously referred to as the Sacred One, prepares the innocent girl for a chilling sacrifice to their fire god. Unbeknownst to them, the Angel has managed to escape his confinement and soon discovers the grim fate awaiting the girl in the throne room. Our hero makes a daring entrance, interrupting the sacrifice at the last moment. When it's revealed that the Sacred One is a hypnotist, the Angel steals his mind against the hypnotic glare, delivering a well-aimed punch that sends the Sacred One sprawling. As he frees the girl, the Angel skillfully avoids another trapdoor, proving once again his quick thinking and agility. In an ironic twist, the terrified Sacred One stumbles back into his own trapdoor, plummeting to what appears to be his end. As the Angel and the girl make their escape, the castle's hypnotized inhabitants mindlessly follow their leader into the pit, mysteriously vanishing in the process. And that concludes this adrenaline-pumping tale featuring the Angel's heroics. This story illustrates the Angel's incredible determination and resourcefulness in the face of danger. It serves as a reminder of the power of resilience and the importance of staying true to one's mission, no matter the odds. This next comic is titled Prince Namor, the Submariner. It was written and illustrated by Bill Everett. So picking up from the last issue, the aftermath of the Submariner's attack on New York is still being felt. The mysterious kidnapping of Miss Drayson and the tragic death of Officer Foley have left the city shaken, and the police desperate to capture Prince Namor. It's so hard not to say Namor. Despite their best efforts, their searches through the city's waterways yield no results. They devise a clever plan, enlisting Officer Betty Dean to play damsel in distress, hoping to bait Namor into revealing himself. After a week-long stakeout in the bustling New York harbor, Betty finally spots our elusive submariner. Acting quickly, she plunges into the harbor, feigning a desperate struggle against the waves. True to his nature, Namor rushes to her aid. However, when she tries to arrest him, he whisks her away into the open sea. In an unexpected turn of events, they encounter a Nazi bomber and a U-boat launching an assault on a British cargo ship. Springing into action, Namor commandeers the Nazi sub, using it to annihilate the bomber before sinking the sub itself. Pushing the crippled freighter to a nearby island, Betty Dean seizes the opportunity to appeal to Namor's better nature. She implores him to join the Allies, arguing that not all humans, especially Americans, are violent. Learning about the naval mines in the vicinity, Namor agrees to neutralize them, cleverly leading Nazi warships into their destructive path. Spotting another U-boat, he captures it, along with its crew, handing it over to the British Navy. Namor then returns to the island, where Betty once again implores him to aid the Allies. This plea leaves Namor deep in thought, contemplating his next move, and that's where we're left hanging until the next issue. This chapter of Namor's saga serves as a thrilling example of the moral complexities of this hero. While often painted as an antagonist, Namor's actions in this issue highlight his capacity for heroism and his internal struggle with humanity. The tension between his past actions and his potential to aid in a righteous cause sets up an exciting narrative that we're eagerly awaiting to unfold in the next issue. The next comic is titled The Land Grabbers. The author is unknown, but it's illustrated by Al Anders. This is about the riveting adventure featuring our gunslinging vigilante, the Masked Raider. In the heart of the peaceful countryside, we find brothers Jeb and Dan Barnes, owners of a plot of land that on the surface appears to be absolutely worthless. But they are constantly bothered by the greedy Jed Sira, who's been doggedly trying to buy their land. Unbeknownst to the Barnes brothers, their land is hiding a jackpot of gold and oil that Sira is eager to get his hands on. The brothers keep refusing, standing their ground against Sira's underlings, and even threatening to involve the local sheriff. Enter Brace, Sira's henchman, who heads into town with a cunning plan to frame the Barnes brothers for a crime, hoping to get them evicted by the sheriff. Luckily for the brothers, the sheriff turns out to be an old acquaintance of Pico's who left his life of crime behind. Brace issues a warning, and the sheriff agrees to turn a blind eye. Back at Sira's, a storm of anger rages upon learning of the involvement of the sheriff, only to simmer down once it's revealed that their former partner in crime has promised silence. Sira's men then escalate their tactics, dynamiting rocks in a stream vital for irrigation of the Barnes land, drawing the attention of our vigilante hero, the Masked Raider. Despite the sheriff's attempt to gun him down, the Raider's lightning reflexes enable him to escape unscathed. Arriving at the Barnes property, the Raider spots Sira's thugs attempting to force the brothers to sell their land for a pittance. The brothers, now feeling cornered with their now barren land, consider giving in until the Masked Raider intervenes, scaring off Sira's men. He then reveals to the astonished Barnes brothers that their land holds great value. Our trio then ride into town, catching Sira and his goons mid-plot to take over the valuable land. In the ensuing gunfight, Sira's gang proved no match for the Raiders' quick draw. Once the dust settles, the Barnes brothers find definitive proof that their land is a gold mine, just as the Raider claimed. They want to offer the Raider a partnership, but he has already disappeared, leaving them with a valuable lesson and a brighter future. This tale serves as a perfect example of the Masked Raider's moral compass, always pointing towards justice. His selfless act in defending the Barnes brothers and refusing their offer of partnership showcases his character's true purpose, not to seek personal gain, but to ensure that the weak are protected and the wicked are punished. What do you think of the Masked Raider's actions? Could he have accepted the partnership and still be considered moral? And what about the Barnes brothers? Will they be able to protect their newfound wealth? This next comic is titled Origin of the American Ace Part 2. It was written and illustrated by Paul Loretta. This is a tale of Perry Webb, an American mineral hunter who's found himself in the midst of a war-torn kingdom. In the last issue, Perry Webb found himself entangled in a battle between the countries of Castile Dor and Atania, all orchestrated by the malicious Queen Ursula. During the chaos, Perry spots a girl, Jeannie, about to be crushed by a mound of burning debris. He rushes to her rescue, saving her life. Jeannie, grieving the loss of her parents and losing the will to live, finds a glimmer of hope in Perry, who offers to take her to safety. Perry flies Jeannie to a quaint cottage where her sister and grandfather are residing. After sharing her tragic story, Perry is welcomed into their home. Meanwhile, back in her palace, Queen Ursula reveals grand plans for world domination. Her minister, Yosef, though considering her mad, is too terrified to oppose her. To garner support from her subjects, the queen resorts to propaganda, rallying the people of Castile Dor to resist their so-called oppressors from Atania. Back at the cottage, Perry decides it's time to continue his original mission, hunting for a source of radium. As he flies away, he's soon spotted by Castile Dor fighter planes who open fire despite Perry being unarmed. He's shot down and crashes right into Jeannie's house. Our heroes, Jeannie, Marie, and their grandfather, pull Perry from the wreckage, tending to him as he recuperates. During his recovery, Perry experiences an epiphany. He realized his true mission isn't merely hunting for minerals, but to bring down Queen Ursula and her oppressive regime. In terms of character analysis, we see Perry Webb transition from a man focused on personal gain to a protector and fighter for justice. It's a powerful message showing us how personal growth often comes from unexpected challenges. We're left wondering, will Perry be able to take down the ruthless queen, and how will his change of heart impact his life? The next comic is titled The Third Episode. It was written and illustrated by Ben Thompson. This is a tale of a big game hunter, Steve Hardy, and his encounter with our jungle-dwelling hero, Ka-Zar. Steve Hardy, a renowned wild animal collector, has ventured into the Belgian Congo, not too far from Ka-Zar's home, with the aim of capturing creatures for a zoo. Soon enough, he manages to trap a number of animals, including Tuda the elephant. Distressed, Traja, the leader of the elephants, seeks out Ka-Zar for help. Investigating the matter, Ka-Zar approaches the camp, keeping an eye out for Paul the Craft, his father father's killer. Discovering that it's not the Craft, Ka-Zar springs into action later that night, freeing all of the captured animals, as he should, as anyone should. A native spots him, but Ka-Zar quickly incapacitates him and ties him to a tree. Come morning, Hardy is taken aback to find all his precious captures gone, and his men raving about the wrath of Angwama, the jungle god. Undeterred, Hardy commands his crew to embark on a hunt. They stumble upon a rhino and her calf, and Hardy orders his gunboy to take out the mother and to seize the calf. Before the shot could be fired, Ka-Zar intervenes with an arrow, causing the men to panic, believing that they have angered Angwama. Fear-stricken, they pack up and abandon Hardy, forcing him to follow suit. Shortly after, Ka-Zar decides to swim in a nearby lake, but gets ambushed by Njaga, a leopard holding a grudge against his father. The leopard drives Ka-Zar deep underwater, thinking he's killed him, but Ka-Zar survives, reminding himself to never be without his trusty knife. As he heads home, he remains unaware of his old enemy, Paul de Craft, planning a journey to the Congo. And that's where we leave it, until the next issue. This story explores Ka-Zar's protective instinct for his jungle friends, highlighting his role as their guardian. His courage, even in the face of dangerous foes, and his resourcefulness reflect a hero's traits. But with the Craft's impending arrival, we are left with the question, is Ka-Zar ready for this coming storm? The next 7 comics are in the Marvel Mystery Comics number 4. They were all released in December of 1939. This next comic is titled New York Hit by Green Flame. It was written and illustrated by Carl Burgos. This is about the flaming superhero, the Human Torch, taking on an icy adversary in a heated battle across New York City. The bustling city of New York finds itself under the attack of a strange army called the Green Flame. Our hero, the Human Torch, is summoned by his pal Johnson to deal with this frosty threat. He adopts the name Jim Hammond for a bit for undercover action. When he arrives on scene, the city is in ruins under strict martial law. Law enforcement intercepts him, demanding his ID when, all of a sudden, a Green Flame member makes an appearance. Without a moment's hesitation, the Torch powers up, engaging the enemy in battle. He quickly discovers the Green Flame is paradoxically freezing cold. He turns up the heat, eliminating the Green Flame. The police, under the impression that the Torch just killed Jim Hammond, attempt an arrest. Our hero, though, manages to make a swift exit. Soon after, he meets up with Johnson and Maisie, learning the culprit behind this chaos is Dr. Maniac, who's threatened to destroy the city unless his ransom demands are met. When the city refuses, Maniac unleashes the Green Flames to ravage the slums. The Torch leaps into action, rescuing Maisie from being a hostage and defeating Maniac with ease, handing him over to the authorities. But Inspector Reese still wants to arrest him for the supposed murder of Jim Hammond. So what does our fiery hero do? He simply just turns off his flames and reveals his dual identity, leaving everyone stunned. This issue puts a spotlight on the Torch's commitment to justice, even when faced with allegations from the very people he's striving to protect. It's a great demonstration of the struggles heroes often face, juggling their secret identities with their public personas. This next comic is titled Butch the Giant. It was written by Ray Gill and illustrated by Paul Gustafsson. This is quite the saga, involving the Angel going toe-to-toe with a rampaging giant. So we're diving into this location known as the Devil's Playground. Not exactly a holiday destination, if you catch my drift. It's a hotspot for some of the nastiest mobsters in the city. The tale starts with a low-ranking mobster named Brink staging a power grab over his boss's mob. His secret weapon, a hulking brute called Butch, who's sent out to wreak havoc across the city, leaving a trail of mayhem and stolen loot in his wake. The police try to put a stop to Butch, but they're stunned to discover that he's seemingly invincible. Everything they throw at him just bounces off. Enter our hero, the Angel. Sensing trouble, he swings into action and confronts the monstrous Butch. But here's the twist. Butch, the supposed unstoppable force, actually gets scared of the Angel's superior fighting skills and beats a hasty retreat. With the police in hot pursuit, the chase leads them right to Brink's secret lair. As Brink and his goons try to make a run for it, the Angel engages Butch in a deadly face-off. Amidst the chaotic clash, Butch crashes through a wall and plummets to his death. With their giant guardian gone, Brink and his mob are swiftly captured, wrapping up another victory for our angelic Avenger. This issue presents an interesting exploration of power dynamics within the criminal underworld and highlights the Angel's formidable fighting skills. His ability to stand up against the seemingly invincible Butch reminds us that heroes can often defy expectations and turn the tide in the face of overwhelming odds. The next comic is titled The Submariner Goes to War. It was written and illustrated by Bill Everett. So this is picking up from where it left off last time. The previous issue left us with Namor leaving Betty Dean on an island, promising to aid in stopping the relentless Nazi U-boat attacks on supply ships. Namor heads back to Atlantis, where he convinces the Holy One to use their mighty warships to put a halt on the war. Namor swears to end the conflict, but he won't take sides. Instead, he's going against power-hungry governments, thrusting their people into war. As Namor springs into action, he encounters an allied cargo plane under Nazi fire. Commanding his fleet of sky subs, Namor retaliates against the Nazi fighters and keeps the falling cargo plane afloat until the crew and cargo can be transferred to an Atlantean vessel for safe passage. Amidst the rescue, Namor stumbles upon a newspaper headline. An American ship has been seized by the Nazis under suspicion of smuggling contraband. This calls for immediate investigation. Namor rushes to the scene solo and secretly boards the captured ship. He persuades the ship's crew to covertly commandeer one of the Nazi U-boats to sink the other vessel guarding their ship. With Namor's help, they pull it off. He orders his Atlantean allies to neutralize the lurking mines, diving back into the ocean and commanding the liberated ship to continue its journey to Scotland. This adrenaline-pumping story will be continued in the next issue. This part of the saga shows a distinct side of Namor's character, his impartiality. He's not taking sides, but he's willing to do whatever it takes to end this war, reflecting the character's more peace-driven motives. It also depicts Namor's strategic brilliance, both on the ground and underwater, which adds depth to his heroic character. The next comic is titled The Claim Jumpers. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Al Anders. This is another thrilling adventure in the Wild West featuring the mysterious hero, the Masked Raider. Picture this. Our gold prospectors, Zeb and Luke, strike it rich. Luke sends Zeb into town to stake their claim, warning him to keep their findings under wraps. But Zeb, stopping for water, lets the cat out of the bag and spills his beans to his friend Manuel. Unfortunately, a couple of shady characters overhear this golden piece of information and decide to tail Zeb into town, aiming to swindle him out of his newfound wealth. Once Zeb has officially filed his claim, he finds himself cornered by these scheming thugs. They invite him for a drink at the saloon, a mere ploy to snatch his claim paperwork. Zeb stands his ground, refusing to give it up, only to be brutally beaten and left behind as the goons head off to target Luke. Enter our masked hero. The Masked Raider discovers Zeb, nursing him back to health and vowing to help him and guard Luke. They race to Luke's aid, arriving just in the nick of time. Luke, tricked by a deceitful white flag, has been captured. The goons scatter at the sight of the Masked Raider, with the exception of their leader, Buck, who foolishly chooses to face off with the hero. Needless to say, the Masked Raider made quick work of him. But just when Zeb and Luke want to offer a partnership in their gold venture to their masked savior, they turn around to find he has vanished. This narrative, once again, showcases the Masked Raider's swift justice and his elusive nature. It demonstrates his commitment to helping those in need while maintaining his enigmatic persona. The real gold in this story is not the prospector's findings, but the hero's unwavering dedication to justice. The next comic is titled Electro, the Marvel of the Age. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Steve Dahlman. This is quite an electrifying story involving an inventive professor, a robot, and a daring rescue mission. Professor Zog, a bona fide genius, designs a crime-fighting robot he christens Electro. He envisions this mechanical marvel as his ultimate gift to humanity. After successfully testing Electro, Zog assembles a team of a dozen upstanding men to act as his field agents. Armed with a portable telephone, they fan out across the city to sniff out crime, ready to call Zog for Electro's help when things get sticky. Agent number 3, a quick-witted Dick Gardner, gets a lead on a hot case, the recent abduction of a child star, Joyce Levy. Dick manages to corner a thug involved in the kidnapping, forcing him to spill the beans. The culprit behind the kidnapping is none other than the notorious Jaime Pizzetto gang. Led to their hideout in the deserted Pink Slipper Roadhouse, Dick skillfully outmaneuvers the criminals and makes a run for it with Joyce. But alas, he is shot during their escape and crashes. Both he and Joyce are recaptured and tossed into a cellar. Dick, though captured, manages to ring up Professor Zog, who wastes no time in deploying Electro. Our robotic hero breezes through the villains, liberating both Dick and Joyce. This story perfectly encapsulates the theme of human ingenuity and technology as a force of good. Professor Zog's creation, Electro, symbolizes the potential of science when harnessed for the betterment of society. It also underscores the importance of courage and resilience as embodied by Dick's relentless pursuit of justice. The next comic is titled Ferret, Mystery Detective. It was written by Bob Davis and illustrated by Erwin Hassan. Our hero, the Ferret, is at home, minding his own business, when he gets a rather unusual visitor. You know, the kind that just shows up unannounced and then promptly collapses dead on your doorstep. Pretty sure that breaks at least 2 social etiquette rules. Earlier, the poor guy was reported shot on the radio. Ferret, the ever-good citizen, takes the body to the police. They find a matchbook from the Monte Carlo nightclub on him and decide to pay a visit. At the club, 2 men catch their attention, Doc and Prima. Doc admits he saw the deceased while Prima pleads ignorance. Meanwhile, starlet Lynn Froheim is being rudely ejected from a car post-robbery. The Ferret gives chase to the fleeing vehicle in a taxi, leading him to the New York harbor. Unfortunately, the thug known as Knuckles Johnson gets the upper hand and shoots the Ferret, who then plunges into the harbor. But fear not, thanks to his bulletproof vest, the Ferret survives. He then recruits an informant to find out where Knuckles resides. Arriving there, the Ferret unintentionally dozes off, only to awaken in a fire set by Knuckles. He makes a daring escape and discovers Knuckles has been assassinated. In an attempt to unmask the killer, the Ferret convinces Lynn to go undercover as a wealthy woman. Unfortunately, this plan goes south when Lynn's driver is knocked out and she gets kidnapped. Putting the puzzle pieces together, the Ferret races back to Monte Carlo, unearths a secret passageway, and foils Doc's plan to off Lynn. As the police cart away Doc and his goons, the Ferret reveals his brilliant deduction. Only a doctor could deliver a dying message in such a precise manner, one that ensured the victim would perish at the perfect time to keep the killer's identity a mystery. This story is a masterclass in narrative suspense and misdirection, showcasing the Ferret's keen mind and relentless pursuit of justice. It also paints a picture of the dual nature of individuals, like Doc, who appears to be harmless but actually is hiding a deadly secret. This next comic is titled Adventures of Ka-Zar the Great, 4th episode. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Ben Thompson. Paul DeCraft, a man with a dark past and John Rand's murderer, is making a comeback expedition to the Congo. Why? To harvest plentiful emeralds in the riverbeds in Ka-Zar's territory. He's got Ed Kivlin with him, a man who's providing funding for this expedition. The twist? Both men are as crooked as a freaking question mark and plot to double-cross each other for the wealth. They manage to keep their destination a secret from their native guides, only revealing it when it's too late to turn back. When the guides protest, DeCraft isn't above using brute force to get his way. Upon reaching the river, their greed-stricken gem harvesting begins, and so does their plotting against each other. Ka-Zar gets wind of these new arrivals from the local animal population, especially Shaka the ape, who's fuming about the murder of one of his brethren. Ka-Zar, seeing the encroachment and violence, sends a chilling warning to the camp by sending an arrow straight into one of the natives. DeCraft, no stranger to intimidation, uses fear and force to manipulate control. Ka-Zar recognizes DeCraft as the murderer of his father and swears revenge. As the jungle's inhabitants gather, planning an attack, Ka-Zar, with his loyal companions Zar, Shah, and Traja, convinces them to hold back. He plans to deal with the intruders himself. However, Njaga, distrustful of Ka-Zar due to his human nature, isn't entirely on board. Ka-Zar approaches the camp again, this time letting out a lion's roar, sending the natives into a panic. Later, Kivlin, collecting more emeralds upstream, stumbles upon Zar. He's about to take a shot when Ka-Zar shows up. He sternly warns Kivlin to take the natives and leave, sending Kivlin scampering back to camp in fear. This narrative is a potent blend of man versus nature and man versus man, revealing the destructive power of greed and the lengths to which some will go for wealth. It's also a powerful illustration of Ka-Zar's role as a guardian of his domain, balancing the human and animal aspects of his identity. The next 4 comics are in the Marvel Mystery Comic number 5. They were all released in January of 1940. The next comic is titled The Orton Medical Mission. It was written and illustrated by Carl Burgos. This story starts with a distress call from Orton, an island trapped in the icy grip of Lake Superior. With a monstrous blizzard closing in and boats unable to reach them, the folks on Orton are desperate for medical supplies. Enter the Human Torch and Johnson, who decide to brave the blizzard and airlift the supplies. Arranging a plane from Newark Airport filled with the required supplies, they rush off, but the airport manager, citing the dangerous weather, refuses to let them fly. Undeterred, the Torch swiftly incapacitates him, and the duo commandeers the plane. Meanwhile, back on Orton, 2 jailbirds named Blake and Hank seize their chance. Breaking out, they shoot the deputy sheriff and abscond into the wilderness, carrying stolen supplies on a dog sled. Fatefully, the blizzard sends the Torch's plane crashing near the escaped convicts. The crooks seize this opportunity, loot the plane's medical supplies, and in a bid to destroy evidence, set the gas tank ablaze, leaving leaving the Torch and Johnson seemingly doomed. The Human Torch, immune to fire, pulls Johnson from the wreckage. With the storm intensifying and Johnson in danger of hypothermia, the Torch uses his powers to clear a path through the snow, which simultaneously keeps Johnson warm. They stumble upon a ship trapped in ice, which the Torch frees by melting the icy obstacle with his powers. During this, they come under bomb attacks from a plane commandeered by Blake and Hank. Just as the Torch attempts to counterattack, his flame powers exhaust, but he watches as the criminal's plane crashes due to an air pocket. On recovery of his powers, he pursues the crooks but falls into a trap and plummets into the ground below. Undeterred, he burns through an iron ore deposit, leading him to an abandoned mine where the crooks have taken refuge. After a heated chase, he rounds them up using his powers and sends them back to the authorities. Just when you think it's all over, the crooks break free and make a run for it again. But karma has the last laugh when the Torch's flame power inadvertently breaks the ice they're running on, plunging them into the icy depths. The Torch reflects on this icy fate, deeming it fitting for the pair. This story is a freaking roller coaster ride, demonstrating the Human Torch's relentless determination and resourcefulness. Despite the harsh weather, plane crash, and power exhaustion, he stays committed to his mission. This narrative also strikes a powerful chord on the theme of karma and poetic justice, with the criminals meeting an ironic end. The next comic is titled Adventure of the Overturned Cars. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Paul Gustafsson. So our story kicks off with Officer Mulligan, who encounters a well-dressed gentleman asking for his help to flip a car. That's a pretty bizarre request. The plot thickens when the man runs off, leaving Mulligan stunned to find all the cars on the street flipped over. Plot twist, this mysterious man is none other than our hero, the Angel. The Angel, having concealed his identity, swiftly changes into his costume in an alleyway. Scaling a bank's roof, he readies a lasso, preparing for what's to come. Meanwhile, inside the bank, a group of robbers wrap up their heist. They send out the bank teller, Mary, warning her against raising an alarm. As she steps out, she is suddenly pulled to safety by the Angel, leaving poor Officer Mulligan scratching his head in confusion once more. Coming out to investigate, the mobsters are taken aback by Mulligan and quickly knock him out. They rush to their getaway vehicles, only to find them all turned upside down. That's when the Angel swings into action, nabbing their boss, Nick, and using him as a human shield. Despite his orders for them to surrender, the mobsters abandon their leader and knock out a passing cab driver in their desperate escape attempt. Infuriated by their betrayal, Nick starts shooting at his fleeing henchmen, but our hero swiftly delivers a knockout punch. Leaping onto the roof of a speeding cab, the Angel pulls out the driver, incapacitating him with a punch. This sends the other crooks crashing, and in no time at all, the Angel subdues and ties them up. Regaining consciousness, Officer Mulligan is gobsmacked to find the crooks captured, and in his confusion, thinks that he literally single-handedly apprehended them. This story wonderfully illustrates the Angel's quick thinking and agility, successfully outmaneuvering the crooks and saving the day. But it also adds a dash of humor with Officer Mulligan's confusion and mistaken heroism, showing that even in serious situations, there's room for a good laugh. The next comic is titled On the Side of the Surface Men. It was written and illustrated by Bill Everett. Submariner, having just assisted the U.S. freight ship Marie, is thanked by the ship's captain before heading back to the depths of the sea. Once home in Atlantis, he requests permission from the Holy One to return to the surface and aid the humans, as he himself is a mix of both worlds. The Holy One, in a surprisingly progressive move, agrees, and despite knowing that Namor's mother might be less thrilled. Switching into his stylish caped outfit, Submariner heads back to New York City, hoping to reconnect with his friend Betty Dean. He has to be careful though, because he is still on the police most wanted list. On reaching New York Harbor, some patrolling officers recognize Namor and attempt to arrest him. This sparks a citywide chase that finally ends with a paramedic downing Namor using a sponge soaked in chloroform. After he regains consciousness in a jail cell, he finds himself in the company of Betty Dean. He tells her that he has returned to aid humanity and asks for a chance to prove himself. This opportunity presents itself when a subway flood is reported. Betty manages to convince her superiors to release him to handle the situation. Namor promptly rescues the trapped subway passengers and investigates the source of the flood, realizing it's not from a burst pipe. Following the water leak, he stumbles upon a group of thugs tunneling into the New York Treasury, using the waterways as a distraction. Submariner effortlessly thwarts their plan, captures them, and hands them over to the police. The leader, Mills Gilligan, is identified when asked about how Namor figured out their plot. He explains his deduction about the flood. This continuation of Submariner's story highlights his strength, intelligence, and commitment to both of his worlds, human and Atlantean. He cleverly handles his dual identity, always trying to maintain balance. His relationship with Betty Dean as well is significant, indicating the strong bonds he forms despite his turbulent lifestyle. The 80th comic in this series is titled Mystery of the Poisoned Arrows. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Al Anders. This is a thrilling saga from the dusty streets of Fade Out. Here, Sheriff Ben Wallace finds himself in the middle of a mysterious murder spree, right as he's fighting to keep his badge in the upcoming election. He can't help but suspect a sinister plot designed to tarnish his reputation. As he shares his theory with his comrade, another arrow finds its mark, striking down yet another rider. Back in town, the sight of the fallen victim stirs mockery among local mischief makers, and a brawl ensues. All the while, Grimsey, Wallace's rival in the sheriff race, observes the chaos with keen interest. The quarrel is disrupted when yet another townsfolk falls victim to a deadly arrow. Grimsey points the finger at Joe, known for his exceptional archery skills and a vocal advocate against firearms. The plot thickens when the coroner confirms poison-tipped arrows are the murder weapon. Wallace's investigation leads him to the masked raider, who manages to disarm Wallace, but also convinces him to partner up to reveal the true killer. Our heroes lay a trap, using a fake threat pinned by an arrow to observe Grimsey's reaction. Grimsey, it turns out, has been the puppet master all along, using a hired hand, Miguel, to execute his dirty deeds. Despite the two men discovering their ruse, the raider and Wallace manage to uncover Joe, falsely implicated and left for dead, adding another layer to Grimsey's insidious plan. Following the masked raider's advice, Wallace challenges Grimsey to a duel at Robber's Rock, and thanks to the raider's sharpshooting, they manage to thwart an assassination attempt and apprehend the guilty. With justice served and the masked raider riding into the sunset, Fade Out reinstates Wallace as their rightful sheriff. In analyzing this gripping narrative, we see a powerful exploration of corruption, manipulation, and the quest for power. It underscores the importance of truth and justice, reminding us that no matter how intricate the web of deceit, the truth will always prevail. And there you have it. There is another journey into the marvelous universe of Marvel Comics. I hope that you've enjoyed diving into the vibrant panels, exploring compelling narratives, and of course, learning more about some of the most iconic characters in comic book history. Remember, whether you're a seasoned comic book veteran or just starting your superhero journey, there's always a new adventure waiting for you on the next page. So keep reading, keep exploring, and keep living the Marvel in Marvel Comics. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and smash the subscribe button to stay up to date with all future comic explorations. I'll see you next time.